Alrighty. So as I said before, making it a two-parter. Same clothing, same everything. I'm not really changing up, you know. But anyways, I've got two more stories about just like weird incidents with my schooling. And neither of these really affected me directly. The other ones did because one was the school I was going to be attending in a year, and the other one was the school I was attending. These ones didn't affect me directly as a person, but it's kind of weird. There was one in the middle school that I went to, and it was big. And then there was one in the other high school, which I would say was like probably the biggest thing. Like, even though our school burned down and everything, I think the other high school, oh man, that could have been awful. We're gonna start off with the middle school story though. So in middle school is a weird place, right? There's some rules that don't make sense, and it's just it doesn't make sense to us at the time. So like we had this one rule before you went out to recess, and yes, we did have recess. It was like a middle school, elementary school, so we got like special privilege or whatever. I don't know if that's like normal for middle schools, but anyways, so you go lunch, then you go recess, right? And if you want to get excused from lunch, so weren't like people just screwing around when nobody was out there, you had to get a poker chip from like just the people handing it out. Like, people would be in there monitoring, and then they would go outside when we were all done eating and they were all excused, so there wouldn't be like a big rush outside. It was like a single file type thing, which it was pointless. I'm not gonna lie, it was pointless. Nobody was like trampling each other to get outside. But anyways, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is these teachers would hand out your chips, and like sometimes it would feel like they were avoiding you, right? They weren't giving you your chip, and they were wasting your recess time, because I think it was like allotted maybe 20 minutes of recess, but that started from the instance they started handing out chips. So like the later you get out, the worse it was for you. So me and my friends were just sitting at lunch, and we always make fun of this janitor. We don't say it to his face, but we're always like, man, this guy's a little bit off. And that's just because bro always goes to like the tables of full girls first, right? And we kind of made a joke. We were like, oh, like, he's a pedophile. And lo and behold, he was. So we were just making jokes, and this went on for like maybe 6 months to a year. Like, he worked there for a long time. He was the janitor, and he just like watched over at lunch and all that to make sure there weren't like fights or anything breaking out. And so he would always go to the girls first, and like, there's nothing like inherently wrong about that. Like, it's whatever. We were definitely a rowdy bunch of boys, so I could understand like if a teacher was just avoiding giving us chips, they didn't want to be near us, which was fine because we were middle school boys just terrorizing everyone. So like, in hindsight, nothing too wrong about it. But it turns out he actually had relations. He worked at a different school before this, a different middle school, and he had relations with one of the kids. And I think it was like consensual, but she wasn't old enough. So yeah. And then I think like 3 or 4 other women came forward and backed up her story about what he did to them, and how they would go into the closet or whatever. He would like not drag them in, but like trick them into the closet. And I mean, I don't really know what to say. It didn't affect me. I felt very bad for every other party involved, because we just made fun of the guy. Like, I'll show you what he kind of looked like, and let me say, this is not an actual picture of him. This is kind of what the guy looked like though. He had the pedo mustache, kind of hairline like that. This is not the direct guy. If you find this guy, don't harass him. None of these guys are. I was trying to avoid finding the actual guy, because yeah, who knows what happens. The internet's a wild place. He looked like this guy though, so we had like probable cause to make fun of this guy. And it was all fun and games. It really was all fun and games. And then one day, a news article comes out about like a year after the guy just disappeared off the face of the earth. And yeah, he did some pretty messed up stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I don't condone any of it. It was really bad. At the time, it felt good. I'm not gonna lie. for you being a little kid and you're just like making jokes and you're like, this there's something not right about this guy, and then you were right. Everyone thinks you're dumb, but you were right. Felt kind of good. For everything else, for everyone else, bad. Felt awful. I felt entirely awful for everyone who has ever talked to him that was of the opposite gender. I was like, man, oh man, he was actually just trying to score, and that had to have been awful. So overall, very uncomfortable story to tell. I'm not gonna lie. I thought that was gonna be a lot easier, a lot funnier. It was not. That was very uncomfortable to tell because I didn't live it. You know, it wasn't. It didn't affect me directly. Like I said, I was just kind of there for it. I witnessed it, but it was very odd. You know, because you hear about like high school teachers and kids, and like that's still wrong. That's awful, but it's more understandable because this guy, the other school, he just left it and then came to our school looking to do the same thing. So very uncomfortable situation, I will say that. And I don't know, very odd circumstances. Now this is where it gets really wild though, because this last story, it did affect a lot of people, and that's not to say it didn't, but this story could have affected the entirety of the town. So basically, you know the story. Kid gets bullied, pushed a little bit too far, goes a little wackadoo, you know, and they bring a weapon to school, and most of the time it's a gun, sometimes it's like a knife or whatever. And this guy made a bomb threat, and you know, you're thinking to yourself, oh well, this kid doesn't know how to make bombs, right? Like, bomb threats are, in my opinion, I think of bomb threats being the least credible, you know, because people don't really have access to bombs. They don't know how to make bombs. Like, least credible, you know. If somebody said they were bringing a gun to school, I'd take that very seriously compared to a bomb, although both of them are very serious topics. Regardless, getting off topic here. So this kid, if I remember, he's like a soccer player, something like that. And I was still in middle school, so this didn't affect me directly, but it could have affected the entirety of the town. Bro makes the bomb threat, and everybody's like, that's not right. So they cancel school for the day, and they start doing like heavy investigation on this kid. They get warrants, they get all this, all that, and the bomb threat was entirely credible. This guy, I don't remember if he studied books or if he studied the internet, but he learned how to make bombs, and he hid them under his floorboards, and he totally intended on bringing them to school the date that he had like disclosed online or wherever it was. So dude had the arsenal to back it up, and that was probably the most shocking thing. Every story that I've said has affected somebody negatively, but this one could have been real damage, and it was a very good time for the police in our town, I'd say, because if they wouldn't have taken that seriously, so many casualties. You know, they took it really seriously. They did a good job, and they cleaned it up in the first day. Bro was arrested within like hours, and they got the bombs all cleaned up, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Regardless, I just think it's weird, man. Like, I know that some people survive some pretty horrific stuff in their schooling careers, but I feel like it's normally like one really awful thing and then like maybe one minor thing, you know. And I feel like I suffered like two major things, not me personally, but our town did, and it pushed itself on me, you know. It kind of affected me, but not much. But two major and two minor, bro. Four accounts. That's not even it though. There's still some really bad stuff that happened. Those were the only entertaining ones to tell though. When it comes down to it, it was a wild ride. I'm not gonna lie. From like fifth grade through like me graduating, insane, because I was a COVID person. You know, I graduated because COVID was like, there you go, and they're like, you have too many credits, you don't have to go to school anymore. So that's, my schooling career was very weird after I hit middle school. I will say my elementary school though, that like first through fifth grade, that was great, bro. I feel like I had the most average first through fifth grade experience, and that's good. That's good at least, you know. I feel like I turned out decently normal because of that, you know, no trauma from first grade or whatever. But anyways, I really just wanted to make a video about these because I thought they were weird, and they're, I don't want to say funny, but they're a good story to tell, you know, because who would have known who would have known? It's the fire one, the news outlets picked up, and every other one I think was picked up in the state, but like not nationwide. You know, you never hear about like the bombing that could have been, or like child predator works at a school. It's only after the horrific incident occurs that you actually hear about it, like the fire one. So I figured these stories aren't gonna get told by really anyone else, so may as well give my own little spin on them, especially from like living it, you know. It's better than reading a news article written by somebody who's not really affected by it. Anyways, that's gonna be all for today. As always, like, sub, comment. I appreciate it. Thank you, and goodbye.